All right, so this is the report we created yesterday, and a lot of you already created this. Now we'll go to the next parts, but before we do that, let's just quickly understand what that means. And it means exactly the name of the tab. It is sorting. Sorting is ascending or descending order. Those are the two default options that Workday gives you. Filter. This is where the report logic exists. Right now, we are getting 8,000 records because it's literally pulling data for each and every employee with their hire date, their first name, last name, managers, so on and so forth. So if you recall, yesterday, our requirement was that managers reach out to the Workday team asking for reports which give them hire date for a particular date range, right? So we'll add that date range criteria here. So we'll first add that, then we'll move to prompts. Prompts are nothing but giving the end user the ability to enter values. And based on that, those prompts will in turn act as your filters. Okay, so let's do a quick test for that. So I'll go in the edit mode. That will be more dynamic. Like right now, the report is dynamic because when you run the report, you can filter using the column headers. But now we are actually adding more filters to it, like actual filters. So the first, and again, there's nothing called as dynamic or static report. I just gave that as a reference to help you understand what dynamic means. That you as an end user will have, let's say if you're a manager, you will have more control over what date range you need. But that will come after a few test cycles. So let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
It says specify how the results should be sorted. So you click on the plus sign and you can see a field column and a sort direction. Now field column, it picks up the field from your report. The first option, fields on report. If you want to sort it on something else, you can type it in here. Let's say I want to sort it on location. I can select it as long as it's coming from a work or business object. But there's no point of using it because there is no location field in the report. That's why sorting is always on the fields on the report. So let's say I want to sort based on the hire date.
But we can also, I mean, even if the field is not there, can we sort it?
But you can select it here, but it won't make any difference. Why? Because like it will make difference, but you won't be able to notice. Let's say if I add a column as location, then it makes sense to add that location field here, and based on that, we'll do the sorting.
Correct. No, but I'm just saying that just in case if the column is not there, we can still sort it, but it does not make sense.
Yeah.
For the viewer.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So right now, if I use hire date and I'll put it in a descending order, these are the two default options. You don't need to use any of these. And let's try to run the report again. Now, earlier when you run your report, you would see all the 2000, 2001 hires as well. But now if I run the report, you can see the most recent hires, which in fact was as of yesterday. The record numbers is the same, plus, and these are 2020. So based on your sorting, your hire date is not. Yes. You can change it back real time if you want to. Like, you can do it from here as well. But now I have added it as a default. Like I've added this in the report definition that it automatically sorts this. Only if you specifically ask in your request, let's say if you're the manager and you're asking the report in a way that you see the most recent hours on the top, then we'll add the sorting for you when creating the report. So I'm showing this to you for from your learning standpoint that you should know how to work with sorting. And it's pretty straightforward. There's only two ways, ascending or descending. And mostly we sort on either the date fields, whether it's a hire date or some other effective date, or we do it based on some other field like an employee ID or something. So that is for sorting, as simple as that. The next come filters. Now, in my requirement, the filter is, the logic is, it should be in a date range, right? So let's start with like someone who would like a completely new to the reporting, how would they add the date range, right? So here is the field. Again, we'll use fields on report. Now you can see there, I can only select these fields. Now, why is that? Am I using some other fields here? So I want to use the hire date, and I want my hire date, let's say the first requirement that I received, okay, which is that I need all the new hires within a date range starting from the year until the, like how many new hires were added in the company in the first 6 months. So now these things help, these symbols that you see here, because the type of field that you are using. So if I'm using this field in a filter, it will allow me to only filter based on a date, not on a text field. How it works is, I'll show you. Now, since it's a date field, my operator will be used that accordingly, and it will give me these options like is blank, not blank, equal to, not equal to. Versus if I, let's say, filter on some other field, which is, let's say, of type single instance, let's say I use this manager. Now, if you see the operator values, it will differ. Because again, if you fall back on the concepts of, so I'll say a concept here, and you have to tell me where did you learn it. Okay, A equals to B. We worked on this concept where your A is this field, hire date. Now your B value must be of type date. Then only you can match them. Same way, level 1 is of type single instance. Single instance are usually self-referencing fields. That means if I use it anywhere, I'll only get one row per one output per row. So that's a little confusing to understand, so we won't go there, but hire date is a simple example, right? And based on the type of field, we get that operator value. So let's move ahead with this, and it will select greater than or equal to, right? And these automatically populates. And if you see here, my comparison type automatically populates as a field because hire date is of type field. And just for experiment, let's say I select anything here for a self-referencing field. Let's say I select in the selection list. You will see that I can use someone's name, let's say Ashley, because she's a manager. So this person is a manager. That is why we are able to see that. Why didn't I get a date field again? Because this is not a date field. This is a single instance. So based on what type of field you're using, you will have to equalize it with the same type in the comparison value. Okay, that would be difficult to find it out here because of all the messed up setup. But this person somewhere has a manager role that you can see associated job profile is just the business title. So we selected the starting range. We'll do the same here. We'll select the ending range. For some reason, it's select this one. Now my option will be less than equal to. Okay, and I'll select last day of the 6 month. This. Okay, I'll just add this small filter here. I'm giving a date range, which is basically your report logic, and then run it again. So now I'll run the report. So from 8,000 records, it will come down to about 900 records because it's giving you a date range from till the end of June, between end of June and January 1st. And you can see the most recent hire was as of the last day of June. So your sorting is also coming into picture and the filters are also working. But still, this report is something which if I give to a manager and let's say they come back to me after a week saying, I need it only for the last 3 months, which is from June to September, something like this. So you cannot be going in and creating reports every single time there's a change in those. So what we do is we enable these filters as prompts. Okay. Prompting allows the end user to enter a value. Okay. So let's edit this. Go to filters. And now this comparison type comes into picture. Earlier, wherever we used the eligibility rules, wherever we created this was not something that, we ever looked into. I also referenced that we'll use this in the comparison during the reports. So we have 4 options. This is the default one, which is working as an equal to sign basically. Then you have these other options, prompting the values. Now let's say I can use this also, value from another field. Value from another field will be using another field, let's say today. So there are these fields, today plus 1 day, so many different fields, today minus 2 days, so on and so forth. You can use that. I can use it first day of the year. So based on which year you are in, Workday will pick up the first day of that year. So there are many report fields like this we can use. But again, this will not serve any purpose. So we'll use prompt. We want this value coming from a manager. So we'll use prompt the user for value. When we do that, we automatically get this as a default prompt. And the same we'll do for this. From default prompt, we'll select this as a starting prompt and this one as an ending prompt so that it makes sense from starting it. Though changing it does not make a difference. This is just for our own understanding. But our work is not done here because when you enable your filters, like these are our filters as prompts, you have to make sure that they're added in your prompt tab. Right now, my prompt tab is all empty. So there is this option which says populate undefined prompt defaults. What it does is you just have to click it once and it automatically populates. It finds in your reports what are all the different prompts available. You just click on it once and it will list down all those prompts that are there and it deselects it again. Right. We won't focus on these top 3 because these are already there. We did not add it. These are coming from your data source filters. So we don't have to worry about it right now. What we'll do is we'll just put our hire date on the top. We can schedule the order as well. So these 2 is what we'll focus on, starting prompt and ending prompt. We can also override them using this, like starting hire date range, ending hire date range. Right now, the default type, there is no default value, which means those values will be blank so that the end user can enter those values. So I'll click OK. And now when I run the report, these 3 were already there, which again, we'll have to ignore. But these 2 got added just now because we enabled it as prompt. So now visualize yourself as a manager. You now have the ability to enter the date range that you want. I can even select future dated, like future dated transactions. If there are any. If there are none, then we won't see it. Now I have about 83 records, and the most recent hire is November 14th. And you can see the date range that I selected. So this, Hassan, would be more of a dynamic report where the manager have the ability to enter their own date range. In the filter logic, you have comparison of, let's say, a lot of times what we do is in data change reports where we are looking for employees being transferring from one location to another, we select the fields like location current is not equal to location proposed. These location current and location proposed are different report fields. So we enable that as prompt one, and then we compare current base salary not equal to proposed base salary. We mark it as prompt two. So when you have a lot of prompts in your report, you can use those numbering just for easier understanding when you're, so that there's no confusion when doing the reports. Now let's make it, let's experiment something more. What we'll do is, so we have these filters, we have these prompts. Now I'll play around with these default values. And here also you get 3 options. What you did in filters, you can do it here as well. You can specify a default value like we did it earlier. So by default, this value will always be there. Okay. But let's say your requirement is that the manager is not even want to take an effort and add in the, okay. So let's say the requirement is that the manager, so let's say you're a manager and you don't even want to enter any prompt values. Your requirement is that I need the date range that anytime I run it, it should give me for the last 3 months. Okay, so what we do is we use an option like determine default value at runtime. And here we'll select something like today minus 3 months. Let's see if there is a field exists. Let's see, we have some 3-month field here. Yeah. You see current date minus 3 months. Now this is not something that is Workday delivered. This is something which is a calculated field. Okay. We'll enter into the details later, but this field will automatically pick up a date which is 3 months behind from today. And the ending date range, we'll use like the value of today. So instead of using actual dates, we're using these calculated and custom fields to give us those values. Now let's see what difference does that make in our report. We'll run it. Now, if you notice something here, the center field is your month, 8 and 11. So 8 is exactly 3 months from today. From today, 3 months behind. So whenever the manager has to do, they don't even have to worry about entering any date values. Based on their requirements, they can just enter the value and click OK. And they'll get the output that they need. So any time of the day they run it, it will always select a custom date range based on the logic that we have embedded in the report. So this is just one way of, adding some customization. There's no limit to what level of customization you can do. That's why I mentioned the more experience you get is on the real job, working with these reports. Now, coming to the part, how do we share this with the manager? This report is only accessible to us right now. It's not shared with anyone yet. That is when your share section comes, and you can see these 3 options. Let's first go in the edit mode. Okay, so we understood filters, we understood prompts. We have not worked on sub filters yet. We'll do that on a high level. And let's focus on this here first, the share section. Right. So don't share report definition. It won't be shared with anyone. because you are the owner of that report. You can see Logan McNeil is the owner. The second option, share with all authorized user. Share with all authorized user means whoever has the right security to access reports, they can run this report. Like business process administrators or system administrators, or primarily people who have access to the report writer security group. Report writer is also a user-based security group. If you're a member of that group, then you can access this. The next is share with specific authorized groups and users. This is the most commonly used option when you have to share it. Now, when you select it, you get these two, authorized groups and authorized user. Groups, you can add it, there's a manager security group, which is so many copies of it. Just want a regular manager group. Let's say I'll give management chain. Management chain also covers your manager, but it covers all the managers upstream. Okay, so I'll use that. That means all the managers in the system, they can run this report.